Hello, this is our presentation of the facade design pattern by me, Taylor Williams, and Cody Swanson.
The facade design pattern is where you create a single interface for a set of objects in a subsystem, meaning it's the entry point for accessing a complex system where there's a lot of different aspects to it. And that's why you'll see on the diagram that I created that you have the people, the clients, accessing the unified interface, which then allows them to access all the different objects there. And so that's an example of using the facade design pattern. Then below that, you'll see then in red, the clients accessing each object as their own interface. And so that would not be a facade design pattern. That would make it a lot more complex for the clients when they use the system. And so think of it like this. There's a company and you want to be able to reach out to them. So you call their number and you get directed to their support system. And in the support system, it asks if you want to be able to be redirected, such as press 1 for billing, or press 2 to speak with an agent, or press 3 for sales, or 4 for commercial opportunities, and so forth. And you then can be able to then press that and you'll help be redirected to where you need to go or in order to access the correct objects that you're trying to obtain. And so that would be the facade design pattern. Now that we've talked about what the facade design pattern is, let's talk about some of the advantages. So it simplifies the interface to a complex system. So this means that one can be able to use a complex system without needing to know or have a detailed knowledge of it because of the facade, the interface it gives to the user, which allows them to more simply access and use what lays behind the surface, all the objects, the subsystems. And so that's one advantage. Another advantage is that it decouples the system from the details of the subsystems, making it easier to modify the system later. So, for example, it makes it easier to modify because you know that everything is going to be accessing through the main interface for the subsystems or the objects behind it. So when developing these objects or these subsystems, you don't have to worry as much about how to be able to make it safe for access by a user, because you can be able to handle that for the facade for the main interface and then just make sure that it can safely connect from this main interface to the subsystems or the objects from there. And so that provides a lot more flexibility in the creation of the project. So those are the advantages of the facade design pattern in a nutshell.
So the disadvantages of the facade design pattern could be that it adds unnecessary complexity if overused or used incorrectly, meaning that simple tasks for this is not ideal. If you're building or you have something that's just really just needing one thing done, then there's no point of having a facade interface that is set up to attack different subcategories or subclasses of a program. So it definitely wouldn't be necessary in that sense. Yeah, the facade doesn't add any functionality to the program itself. It's just simplifies the interface. And you do need to keep your eye on modifications to the system, because unmonetary modifications could cause breaks inside of the facade execution. So That is very important. Practical implications in this class project that we could actually implement is being able to separate the different classes of creating a ticket, reading all the tickets, updating, deleting, adding users, and resetting passwords, different things like that. We could also use it for like APIs. That's a big thing for facade design programs is a lot with API creation. Um, but it it works well with connecting these classes and these interfaces to like the database and stuff like that. Um, we uh, we don't want our users to have to manually input all of this different things into the database. So we give them this the opportunity of having this facade um, interface that simplifies the action for them and allows them to add tickets or read the tickets or update it and different things like that. So yeah. Um, Recommendations when to use this system is when the system gets loaded or complex to handle by simple client calls, then it's important to use. There is a need for abstraction to hide the internal complexity of the procedures. So to hide how complicated things can be, that interface will do that by simplifying it, tidying up things, and making things simple for the end user at the end. Um, there is a heavy learning curve to understand legacy systems, so like the facade could definitely help with that learning curve. And then when not to use this is when the system's not complicated. So uh, it's just adding more. Uh, it's just making it more complicated than it needs to be. So here's
Here you will see the quiz questions and answers. Answers are in bold, so make sure to look through this carefully so that way you are prepared for any questions that might arise for the facade design pattern.
and then in summary, we just want to kind of state again, it simplifies the interface to a complex system. It offers a simplified view of the system and hides complexity of that system. Um, uh, kind of give you more of a visualization is this little picture right here. But we're so grateful for everything and this time, and I hope that you guys understand the facade design pattern a little bit more.